By the way, I don't ask this because you have a past connected, you'll know the inside. I just ask purely as an outsider. Is the sense within Denmark and the Danish, is the sense that gla1ve's just done? Do people think he's just not going to get another chance? Because I always kept listening. It's not the idea he was like kicked out of events, but as far as I can tell, they themselves have just moved on. Like, for whatever reason, no one seems to ever bring this guy's name up, mate. He never gets put forward in those conversations. Of what if this person is there a sense that he's just done in his career, mate? What's going on?
I think it's the expectations of where he wants to be and kind of his salary demands compared to where he's at.
Right.
I think that's the biggest issue. As far as I'm aware, Astralis paid a big part of his salary in ends still.
Right.
They split the bill, basically.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure gla1ve's contract runs out now, end of 26, which is why ENCE had to renegotiate with gla1ve. So if he wanted to stay with an ENCE, then ENCE would have to cover whatever salary demand gla1ve would have from 26 onwards. And I don't think ENCE felt that was a good deal for them. Maybe I'm pretty sure they valued him. I'm pretty sure they would have liked to keep him around. And could they split the salary with Astralis for another year? They would have. But paying his full salary for themselves was not worth the investment. So I think that's where it's at. gla1ve is, I mean, you know what I think of gla1ve. I think gla1ve is the greatest in-game leader that's ever existed, in his peak, longevity-wise as well. He wasn't able to do it outside Astralis. That sucks. But I also do think that, he ran out of energy in Astralis. So people forget that, was it 2014 when we kicked him off Copenhagen Wolves? He took a year off where he didn't play Counter-Strike at all. He just stopped playing because he also back then was kind of burned out. And then he came back, played in a couple of shit teams, C-Play, Heroic, then got the offer to Astralis. Had 4 fantastic years in Astralis, but the second he hit adversity again, he kind of stopped, with that hunger that he used to have. And I don't think gla1ve works unless he is a fully focused player. Then he's just a bang average in-game leader. So to be honest, I think he is kind of done for at the highest level. I would love to see someone take a chance on him that could reignite him. But unless a really good teams come out of nowhere and tries to sign gla1ve at a high salary, then I don't think he wants to play at tier 3 or tier 4 level anymore. I don't know if, I don't even know, man. BC game, if Nexa doesn't work out with Simple, lots of money, why don't you take a chance and bring gla1ve in to play with fucking Simple and see what happens? It seems like a bit of a joke anyway. But outside of that, I have a hard time coming back to anywhere it's worth following, to be honest.
No, I know what you mean. There's actually 2 factors that are a problem for him then. One is, as you say, I mean, people forget, he just had a family. So he's one of those people who doesn't want to start over his whole CS career like he's 16 and play for $2,000 a month. Yeah, he probably wants a healthy contract, which the problem then is that limits who you can join. You basically probably need to join a top org. But then the problem is you haven't had any results. So you also have the angle where it's quite comparable as an IGL to the position Simple is in. In theory, a bunch of people would want Simple. A bunch of people still think he could be awesome. The real problem is, though, no one can really answer, and I don't care how many times Simple tells us this, we're talking about to know it as a fact. We have to actually know deep down that he really is totally committed to CS2. You know what I mean? You have to know that he is really just going to play for 6 months now, no matter what. No matter how, if this team loses every map online, he's still going to try super high, he's going to grind. No one can answer that, unfortunately. And I feel like at this point, it's not even about answering, it's about just doing it. So I think there's a similar thing. I think the real problem you had in ENCE was they barely ever even went to any fucking lands, mate. So you never really got the kind, that's where people would have been able to judge gla1ve. If anything, I actually think people did temporarily get hyped when they won that Elisa tournament last year. The problem was, right after that, they didn't have the major. They basically just had a massive break, and they even actually lost online games that made everyone just forget about the hype. So I know what you mean. Even though I do think there are people in the scene who do still believe in him, I think the problem is his name's just never going to be the one that comes to the top of their mind when they make a move or they're considering people. Because I know what you mean. It's like part of you is scared also that if you sign him and it doesn't work out, he just retires or something, or it's like the last 6 months or something. It's a tough spot to be in. I just wondered for your case, because listen, I'm sure you're like me. It's more like, because I do think he is comparable to Simple in that sense. I think IGLs aren't about raw talent in the game anymore. I think if you have a mind like him, Carrigan, fuck it, throw them all in there, Snappy. It's the reason I never gave up on Snappy after Falcons. It's more like the same question. Is he still into it? Does he still want to be the best? If he does, I think players like that, if you give them the right environment, they can still be quality pieces, I think Snappy's even shown it now in NIP, right? He's been written off 50 times over.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the issue. I think mentally, gla1ve is not at that point anymore. I don't think he wants bad enough anymore. I don't think he believes in himself anymore, to be honest. And even when, I remember when he got booted from Astralis and when they brought in, was it gla1ve or gla1ve took over in-game, whatever. Even internally in Astralis, they were he was still doing a good job. He was still working hard. He just didn't work a lot. It's like obviously you can sense when priorities are changing. You said wife, family, kids, etc. There was just a bit of a change, and they felt that maybe it was still in there somewhere, but they couldn't get it out of him. Which is why it would be fun to see gla1ve join Gamer Legion. I know that's not gonna happen.
No,
because that's not the project. But I think a guy like Ash could maybe get that in him. And I very much agree with you. It's not whether or not he's good enough or whether or not he has the qualities to do it. It's whether or not he wants it and he still believes and is willing to work hard enough for it. Because, as I said, no one I've ever played with or heard about has ever been better than gla1ve in his prime. Not even prime Kerrigan, not prime Fallen. I don't give a fuck who you are. Prime Apex, for that matter, if we consider Apex to be prime right now. No one no one has been or will probably ever. That's tough to know, right? But probably will ever be as good as gla1ve as an leader in his prime. He just had a sixth sense for the game no one else had. And I think even speaking to Dupree as well, working with him as talent, he very much agrees with that. I don't think Dupree holds gla1ve to the highest standard as I do, maybe, but I think at the end of the day, whoever has ever played with gla1ve will tell you that he was the smartest guy around ever. Kerrigan will say it. Pronax back in the day when he was, in-game leading Fnatic, said he learned a lot. There was even this, I think we spoke about that as well, the faculty team or whatever team it was, where gla1ve, Pronax, and Kerrigan was playing on the same team, and they were like, yeah, gla1ve is no doubt, no shout. He was the best man for the job. So I think that speaks volumes to that as well. It's just a question of whether he can find that inner fire again, and I think him staying in Ents for as long as he did and being okay with having these long breaks, as you said, where they don't go and just play online Counter-Strike. He's basically playing Counter-Strike to make a living now, and the second you hit that notion, you're done for at the top level.
Yeah, it's why actually, when fans do that thing where this is, by the way, this is what you call in English humour a self-report. You don't know that by saying this answer, you're sort of telling on yourself that you're an idiot, which is, when a fan goes like, well, I'd still play if they gave me millions. It's like, I'm sorry, there isn't a player like that in the world, I'm telling you. Even the person who might even lie and, flex like, oh, I'm just doing it for the bag. You have to, on some level, actually love the grind and playing, etc. Like, it's true. Someone like Simple or gla1ve, for the way, if they can get their spot on a team, in theory, they should never retire. They could make a lot of money for the rest of the thing. But the difference is, as you can see with someone like Simple, who, by the way, could make literally millions immediately if he was at the top team now, unless he actually really loves the game, you just won't get through the weeks, mate. It'll be too much. You'll break. It'll be like thinking, I don't really actually want to get healthy when I go to the gym. I just want to look amazing at the very end. It's like, you'll never get there, mate. You have to sort of embrace the grind of each day. And you even have to use the analogy, you even have to enjoy like the strain and the feeling of the muscle moving. If you don't get into the minutiae like that, it's just going to, the long-term big dream, you'll never get to that point. Because I also think what this ties into is a reason, Pimp, why I actually do think Carrigan's case as like, could he be the GOAT IGL, has gotten stronger. It's not that he's won that many more championships. He's won quite a few, but he hasn't won like anything close to gla1ve's amount. I think what people are realising is really incredible is, it's so insane to how many times he, at the end of the year, comes back and the next year tries 100% again. Like, that's the craziest thing. This guy has like almost unlimited appetite to be great at Counter-Strike. I'd even say the same thing with the great star players. Like, you know what? I was myself a skeptic of Zimu, but one thing I'll give him full marks on is, much like a Simple and a Nico, this guy just never stops, mate. He never has, like, his idea of a down year would still be a fantastic year for anyone else. Like, that's the great, a lot of players can have the one amazing year, the two amazing year. Like, I can tell you, I'll try not to speak too much out of school, but this things I know from behind the scenes. Put it this way, Pimp. It wasn't just that like weird football injury that Olaf Meister had back in the day when he was the best player in the world. I also think if you know him as a person, he never really had that like Michael Jordan, like I want to step on your throat and kill you all. Like, he's like more of a chill guy, So it doesn't surprise me he had years afterwards where he wasn't close to the best player. He was just a good player or a team player. It's actually so rare. And gla1ve had it for a few years, but this is why if you ever really can go like 10 years at the top, you deserve to be treated like a god, mate. There's something special about your personality at that point in time. That it's not that like the others are whack for not having it. You're special if you have that, though. That's why I do think those players with the crazy longevity deserve the props, mate.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's why it's always, whenever you discuss with, it may sound harsh, but an average fan or an average dude who's never been competing at a high level, I don't think people grasp how hard it is to, as you said, come back year after year after year after year, or come back after, you have a summer break, you have a winter break, and every time you have to recalibrate and then come back as hungry as you were before, and maybe even hungrier, because the level is getting better and better and better. It's longevity is one of the most underrated aspects of being a good Counter-Strike player, and we always speak of Counter-Strike players in the moment. How good are you right now? Rest is Riz is a good player now, but he's never going to be a superstar again. But he can still be a valuable asset to a lot of different teams. But the fact of the matter is he's been around for a very, very long time, since 2015 or 16 when he joined NIP. He's been competitive, playing at a high level. And I think once you retire and once you think back of Riz in 5 or 10 years, you'd be like, okay, that was a damn good player. Maybe his peaks wasn't as high as an Olafmeister or who else, but he actually remained competitive for a far longer period. And I think that is something you can appreciate if you've been a competitor yourself, because that's, at the end of the day, that's why I stopped my career. I was 21 or 22 when I stopped, because I lost the desire to do the work. I was always grinding and working hard, and I pride myself to be one of the hardest working players of my era, almost. But I also didn't realize at all that for me doing that in 3 or 4 years, that meant my career was going to be short, and I just didn't have the hunger to do that or continue to do that. So I don't know how Kerrigan does it. I don't know how Dupree did it for such a long period. I don't know how these players who've been doing it for such a long time. And I think part of it is winning. Winning keeps you hungry, and winning makes it fun. But if you're struggling and struggling and struggling and struggling, then you're probably not going to stick around. Kerrigan probably could have been a great example of that when he joined. Was it Envious or something, for half a year, trying to build a shit players and whatever, and that didn't really work out. And then I think he got a good offer in Mouse, and then he went on to win something. Face, he won something, and then you can always restart yourself when you're always on the of doing something great. But if you have 2 or 3 years where you're just going to be shit and shit and shit and nothing works out for you, like Riz case, in NIP when nothing worked out for 3 years, for him to come back to a decent level, that's almost more impressive being the best player, or being one of the best players for 2 years. For Riz to make a comeback where he's arguably, in top 30, top 40 of the riflers available years where everything was just shit. I don't grasp how he did that. I wouldn't be able to, and that's why I quit. But he kept around, So I appreciate that. I appreciate longevity more than I think people in the business, people who's tried, people who, even yourself, with the way you do content, where you just never stop. You've been involved in a lot throughout the years, right? You just continue no matter what. I think people in the business respect and appreciate that way more than people who just follow Counter-Strike 1 or 2 years. They can't really grasp the concept of, oh, he's been trying for 7 years. Well, I didn't even watch Counter-Strike 7 years ago, so why do I care? I don't think you're good now. So having those conversations with fans who hasn't been around for a long time, to me, useless in a sense. Doesn't have any value.
No, put it this way, on my side, on the content side, I would phrase it this way. Someone might launch a podcast. It might be amazing. It might be a pro player, might be a scene figure. Everyone might be loving it for the first few episodes when they have their famous friend guest on, some player. All I'll say is this, as someone who's done thousands of podcasts, let me know when you get to episode 50, because until you get to that point in time, you might not even be here in 2 years. You know what I mean? Same argument as with the players. Yeah, there's a lot of people, especially when we're going on stats, they have a 3-month period, they look amazing. They have 1 year where they're awesome. That Olafmeister one's a great example. If you went to the end of 2015, bro, you could have thought Olafmeister would end up as the GOAT of CS. He looked unbelievable. But within something like 2 years later, he was not even in the conversation. People don't even put his name in that convo with Simple. And I mean, the joke is even Cold Zero doesn't even get in there anymore, because that was only 2 years on paper. So yeah, it just shows how ruthless the industry is. But that's also why, I know what you mean. That's why people who have done it a long time, we know that you can have moments where you peak. You can have moments where everything's going great. But the question is, what is the long-term prospect? Because if you really do have excellence year after year after year, I agree, that shows an extra quality about you that's just very rare. I think it should be celebrated. See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or be a pleb and don't.